If you watched any of my recent videos, you know that I had a failure on my Mytee waste tank, and I also ordered a new one. Well, this one finally came in, and the previous tank, right below the dump valve, it basically split open all the way through the threads of where the dump valve screws in. So I'm not sure if it was a manufacturing defect or a bad design or what. I know this tank has a seam in the same place, but I am going to give the Mytee tank another try because it is a more economical tank rather than an aluminum or stainless, and just see if this one holds up any better. Now, one drawback of this tank is the fact that it's only 54 gallons compared to the old tank, which was 80 gallons. So in my opinion, that's definitely a negative. Another negative is that this tank does not come set up with a hose bar for you, from the factory. You have to put one yourself. The positive of this tank is that it's translucent, so at least you can see your water level in the tank, and you don't really have to guess. To set the tank up, I'm only going to need a few different items. One of them will be a 2-inch PVC 90, where it has a 2-inch end and then also a coupler end, and this will go into a 2-inch drain. And of course, I'll be removing this metal plate, and then I'll drill a hole here in the sides and attach the drain to the waste tank. That way I can run a hose from this PVC to my vacuum, and I'll do the same thing on the other side of the tank because I run my system in parallel. I also have a hose barb. Now, I previously had this hose barb, but I can't really use it because there's not much of a flange right here at the end of the threads to butt up against the tank. So I went to Tractor Supply and I found this one, which has a much more substantial backing so it can sit up against the tank when I screw it in. I also have, I believe these are called Hayward fittings, and you can buy these at swimming pool places. And I don't need this piece that has RTV silicone on it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get these drain pieces ready. I'm going to put my buddy Rolo on that, and all you need to do is pull this sticker off. There's 2 Phillips screws in here that need to be taken out, and then this piece will need to be drilled right here and right here all the way through so I can attach it to the tank. So while he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark off the center of this round piece so I can go ahead and drill my hole for my hose bore. Well, I was measuring it and I didn't notice this earlier. There's a seam right here. I did see it. There's actually a seam that runs up right here. So that's basically the center of this, so I don't need to make any kind of marks or anything. It's a good reference point to go ahead and drill. And also, I used a 2.5-inch hole saw to make this hole. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and test fit my hose board. And I was a little concerned about this earlier. There's a little bit of a gap in there, so it's not really gonna make a good seal. But I did prepare for this, and let me show you what I got. I went to Amazon prior to getting the tank, and I bought some 1/4-inch ABS plastic and some 1/4-inch neoprene rubber that I can use for gaskets. And I don't think I'll need them anywhere on the tank other than right there, but I wanted to have them just in case I needed them, and it looks like I will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of both the plastic and the rubber to fit that hole and make a tight seal. So I got my plastic piece here and my neoprene rubber gasket trimmed out. Now you're going to have to cut me a little bit of slack on these cuts. I basically used a jigsaw and a box cutter to get these cut. But, this isn't an aesthetic thing. It's functional. So I'm not too worried about the not so pretty cuts that I have on this. All right, now I'm going to slide on my piece of ABS plastic. And you can still see just some little cracks. Now those are going to be sealed up with the gasket, but I may look into getting a whole nother barb, one that has a bigger flange all the way around it. I just need to check online and see if anybody has them, because the last one that I got to order from John Don, but like I said, it doesn't really fit the purpose. I want something that kind of gives it a little more coverage. So now I'm going to put my rubber gasket on. All right, so my plastic and my rubber gasket is on. I'll go ahead and stick this through, and I'll have Rollo put on the flange from the inside. Okay, so now the hose barb's on. Again, I think I'm going to look at getting another one. I just need to check online, but this one will do for now. It's good and tight, and there shouldn't be any leaks, especially when you consider that this piece here has a flange that's flat up against the inside of the tank. So Rollo got both of the drain pieces ready for me, except for drilling the hole, but he took the covers off of them that I'm not going to need. And these holes are a little bit smaller, so I'm going to drill these with a 2 1/8 inch hole saw, because that's about the size of this opening right here. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill the holes in each of these pieces right here so I can attach it to the tank. So I've got my holes marked, and I'm going to go ahead and drill. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill the holes in the tank that are going to match up with the holes on this piece where the hose is going to connect to. I'm not going to put this on yet because I want to seal the back of it with a little silicone, but I need to go ahead and get the holes drilled right now. And I don't have anything thick enough to go through there to mark, so I'm just going to hold it in place while I drill. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put a screw in just to hold this in place while I drill the other hole. One of the things I liked about the older tank was there was a piece that was basically just one small section that sat on the top where you could hook your blower or your vacuum motors to. And if you messed it up or something, you could replace just that one single piece. Whereas on this tank, if you mess it up, you're going to have to do some major stuff to try to get it fixed. You can't just replace this one section. All right, now I'm going to run some silicone right around this edge right here, because I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it kind of goes in at an angle. So this will just help kind of fill the gap in there. The screws that I'm going to attach this piece to the tank with are 6 32 by 1.5 inch screws. They are machine screws, and I'm going to add some lock washers and some flat washers to it. And this is the same exact way I had it set up on my other tank. And the silicone, the screws and everything, and it lasted for 6 years without any problems. So I'm going to do the same thing for this one. And I'm going to use a flat washer on the outside. It'll go through the piece, through the tank, and on the inside I'll use another flat washer, a lock washer, and the nut. Alright, so I've got both of my pieces installed. Went on pretty easy. There was a slight issue with a little bit of a gap here between the top of this piece and the tank, but that's part of the reason why I filled up the inside with silicone. And then when I was done on both this side and this side, I ran another bead of silicone all the way around it. So I seriously doubt there's going to be any type of leaks in it. So next I need to attach the vacuum hoses to the pieces that I just put on. Now to do this, I originally, if you look down here, I bought a 25-foot section of 2-inch hose, which will connect between the tank and my vacuum box. Unfortunately, this particular hose, I'm sure it's a good hose, but the outside diameter is just a little bit, just a tiny bit bigger than the hoses that I previously used. I got rid of those hoses when I got rid of my other tank. But fortunately, I have this section. It's a 50-foot section of 2-inch hose, and this is the last section of hose on my hose reel. And I rarely use it, so I'm going to be able to pull, I don't know, probably 5 feet, probably a total of 10 feet off of this section of hose to use, because I did check it, and it does fit inside the 2-inch couplings. Earlier I mentioned 2 of these 90s. I'm actually going to need 4 of them because I'll need 2 to connect out of here, and then I'll need 2 more to connect into my vacuum box, which also has 2 of these on it. But all I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some silicone inside of here. I'm going to put in my 2-inch vac hose, and I'm going to run 2 screws, 1 on each side, to help hold it in. Again, that's the way I did it on my other tank, and it was really never an issue, so I'm going to do that on this one too. Now I'm going to test fit and make sure the hose is going to fit inside of this 90°, and it does. Now I'm going to put a little bit of silicone in here to help seal it. I'm going to go ahead and put the hose in. It's definitely a tight fit, which I'm not too worried about, because I'd rather it be a tight fit than a loose fit. Alright, that's all the way in. Now I'm going to drill 2 holes, and I'm going to put just a couple sheet metal screws in to help hold the hose in. Alright, so unfortunately, during me making the 2 hose pieces, it's so hot that my camera actually shut off, and I had to let it cool down. So I didn't film the whole thing, but you get the general idea of what I did with that. And with that said, the tank is now complete. All I need to do is let the silicone dry on these pieces and on the hoses, and it'll be ready to go. If you're looking at getting one of the Mytee tanks, I wanted to do this just to kind of show you how I set it up, maybe if you needed any ideas or anything like that. So if you remember earlier in the video, I used a 2-inch barbed fitting for the tank. Now I bought this from Tractor Supply, and what I ultimately found out was this does not quite fit the way it should. It is a 2-inch fitting, but I want to show you how loose it is on the vacuum hose. I mean, it just kind of slips right out. And this vacuum hose is brand new. So if you've had any hose with a coupler already in it and it's a little bit stretched out, it just doesn't work. The hose actually just hangs off and will literally slip off. So I decided to go ahead and change up the way I did the tank a little bit, and I didn't film it, but all I did was I went to Tractor Supply and I bought a 2-inch bulkhead fitting, and I drilled a 3-inch hole in the tank. I made it a little bit larger, and I put on the 3-inch bulkhead fitting, and that way the hose barb can screw in the way it should. And I kind of like this a little better because it really makes a better seal than what I had on the tank before. And this way you don't have to have one of the hose barbs with more of a flange on it. Any of them will work. And to finish the tank off, I purchased a 1.5 by 2-inch rubber coupler. Got this from Lowe's, and I had used this on one of the drums before and it worked pretty well. I siliconed it in. This hose is 1.5-inch pool hose, also from Lowe's, and then I'll just attach it to the dump valve. And I don't know if I ever showed this in my other videos, but for the last 6 years I just used a water hose attached to the dump valve, and it takes forever to have that thing dump. I mean, if the tank is even halfway full, it takes 20 minutes. And when I'm done at the end of the day, it's not a big deal to just run the hose out and let it dump at home. But if you're in the middle of a job and you need to dump the tank to finish the job, you know, it takes a really long time. So that's going to be it for this video, showing you how I set up the new Mytee waste tank. And if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.